my YouTube page, and you can look it up for yourself. But I put this together all yesterday, and then something really interesting I just want to end with this, even though it's not very comfortable. This EMF weapon was tuned for life, so they used it for good. We're talking about electromagnetic frequencies, folks. And it wiped out, this is one man's conjecture, it wiped out the Tartarian Empire as your rapture. The mass disappearance of people and animals wasn't from aliens, wasn't from the bearded bread and fish multiplier, God, Jesus, whatever you want to call him, but from rather an ancient technology used to deconstruct molecules affected by whatever frequency the weapon was tuned to affect. In the case of the Tartarians, the electromagnetic frequency weapon was tuned for life, such as iron molecules. Fast forward to 9/11, Dr. Judy Woods, where did the towers go? They were dustified. Yes, they were. The weapon was tuned for steel molecules during the 9/11 attack, used to break apart the cellular structure of steel molecules using a form of electromagnetic vibrational frequency. This EMF molecular destruction weapon was tuned to a frequency in which anything with steel in it, such as buildings, cars, lights, street signs, were caught in the weapon's beams, would be affected. The EMF weapon was focused on the area surrounding the pertaining object. The object's molecules that made up its steel component would begin to get excited and cause friction. This friction would first cause the object to catch fire. After a short time, the object's steel molecules would begin vibrating at such a high intensity that the molecules themselves would begin to break apart. Think of a microwave, folks, how it works. It's exciting molecules. And then when you eat from microwave food, the molecules are still being excited and expanding in your system. It radiates all through your system, microwave ovens. As the object underwent molecular deconstruction, the object quickly turned to dust, dustification. A similar technology was used to wipe out the previous creation. However, this time, instead of tuning the EMF to break apart the cellular structure of steel molecules, it was tuned to the composition that made up life, such as iron in our red blood cells. Wonderful, huh? So here's some pictures from early 1900s, 1915. I covered on the San Francisco exhibition. But look at the Coney Tower, all lit up. Look at all these examples, Westinghouse with all their shows. We'll get into that more about how they did it, and Queen Khalifa and California being an island. And then the other thing here is on the giants. We've had giants in our history that hasn't. Welcome to another video from A Plain Truth for You, and Well Healed too. Well, this is exciting. I thought flat earth was the biggest thing that could ever be revealed in our lifetimes as far as hidden occulted truths, and now we've got the Tartarian Empire. But one thing I am claiming and making today as pretty irrefutable fact here is that Tartarians were flat earthers, folks. Breaking the news. The Tartarian Empire, the greatest empire that was known to all of man before the occulted history, they were flat earthers. Let's go on. So this is from David Rumsey Map Collection, largest early world map, 10 feet planisphere, plane planisphere, not sphere, plane, get it? Planet, so you know, is plane with a T. Extraterrestrial. Extraterrestrial means extra lands. So plane T, terrestrial, means a plane land, planet. Just sidebar. All right, so an extraordinary 60 sheets manuscript of the world made in 1587 by Urbano Monte, one of the oldest maps. In the map collection at Stanford University. Remember, Stanford University has all the California as an island maps, over 250 of them as well. This was a 10-foot square map of a planisphere, the largest known early map of the year. The North Polar azimuthal projection of this planisphere uses the advanced scientific ideas of the time. The artistry in drawing and decorating the map embodies design at the highest level, and a view over the world, and gives us a deep historical resource with the listing of places, the shapes of places, and the commentary interwoven into the map. Science, art, and history all in one document. Until now, Monte's manuscript was seen as a series of 60 individual sheets. Monte made his map to serve not only as a geographical tool, but also to show climate, customs, length of day, distances within regions, in other words, to create a universal scientific planisphere. In his dedication, he specifies how to arrange the sheets to make it explicit that the whole map was to be stuck on a wooden panel 5 so that it could be revolved around a central pivot of the North Pole. It's a flat map, folks. Here it is. And it comes with great detail. I just ordered the largest one, a 60-inch one you can get. But I'll get into this in a minute. But you can see all the details. The details are absolutely amazing. This is Africa here. And you can see the camels here and the creatures they have here, which we'll get into in a minute. They have griffins, they have lions, they have all sorts. But you can take this apart. We need to really take this apart. This is a cross-section of Northern Europe here. You can see it was not very big compared to the rest of the world, compared to Africa. Here's Japan. Doesn't quite look like the Japan of today, does it? This is United States, Florida. And look at Cuba down here. It didn't quite have that extension that we see today. Here's the Gulf of Mexico over here. Don't see any hurricanes, though, geoengineered. And then down here, we've got northern Siberia, Central Asia. And also, we see this is southern Argentina and Chile. So that's very detailed. These are the 10 panels. And the ships, the sailing ships going across the sea and whatnot, you can see as well. And also, this looks like a water spout coming out in the middle of the lands. Whoever can read Italian, ancient old Italian, we need to decipher how this all goes. And that was the constructor of the documents here. And you can see around the Arctic Circle, which we'll get into here in a minute as well. So very, very detailed, elaborate map. And then this is very interesting. Attilia at the center of the North Pole. We got Libro and Corto. So any Italian people speaking out there, if you can help us decipher. But this is showing the lengths and days during the different months. And then here's the Knights Templar, folks, the Red Cross. Here they are, crossing the oceans, changing the story, making up their story, his story, as opposed to her story. And her story is one of elegance, simplicity, beauty, Mother Gaia. And what do we see here, folks? We see the central North Pole, and we see the electromagnetic sun and the moon rotating around it as well in a circumference circling the center pole. So the lies are great, the lies are deep, but they're coming out as well. So these are all the 10 images that were blended together here. So this is from my YouTube channel, JME Lee, which I highly recommend you get on if you're on Fascist Book. But an extraordinary 60 sheet by the Rumsey Map Collection. But just to go a little more detail, they said they used the Mercator's sphere map of 1569, but he claims his sources for the maps were many of the great people of our times, Ptolemy, Pliny, Cortez, Columbus, supposedly all these people that sailed around the world and reported back and made this great map, a flat earth map. Printed on the wall, indicates he had planned to distribute his geography to a wider audience, but it was never quite done. And I'll put this in the show notes as well. All right, for all you cartographers and map studiers, I want you to go through this. This symbol over here, you can rotate the map around in different directions to rotate its use, and then you can come in and dial it in, and it takes a second for the images to come in, but the details are absolutely fascinating. Here you have the north, the four rivers with Mount Meru, the tree of knowledge, sitting here in the center in the firmament above, and you see the details of these areas. So let's get into a little more detail in my claim that I'm making that the Tartarian Empire were flat earthers, and here we clearly see Mare Tartaro, the Tartarians. You see Tartarians all the way through this map here from the 16th century. You can see clearly that there was Tartarians, Tartari, they're flat earthers, folks, and look at these canines, these animals they had in the horse and buggy days. Now again, this has been co-opted, so this map may not be as authentic when giving the imagery of that they had the free energy devices back then, and that the Tartarians were literally Tartaria, were literally wiped off the earth. Look at this, they got unicorns, they have griffins, chimeria throughout all this area. They're describing this fecundity of life that doesn't exist anymore. We don't know about. It could exist, but we're not being told any of this. So you can go through this whole map. It's absolutely fascinating to look at it. And then we have the Arctic Circle going around here. Let's get into that a little bit. And I've learned that this is different terrain. This is like desert land, I would think, where they have these down. Remember the Piers Res map back from 1569, I believe, where they showed that the Antarctic Circle was tropical. And here you see lions and you see antelope. You see all types of fecundity of life here, folks. Types of crocodiles. Look at this. Were they Chimerians? I mean, did the Anunnaki have the technology to hybrid animals with people, the Chimerians, the centaurs? Well, we're seeing evidence of that. You got crocodiles down here along the Arctic Circle and whatnot, and it goes all the way around. Let me rotate this. Pretty fun stuff. I've just been tooling around in this, and you can do it for days and days. But again, we need somebody to decipher these inscriptions and then look at all the animals they had back then. They had the chimera, a head with a lion type of thing. Did these exist in these lands back then? Only a few hundred years ago? It boggles the mind. And then, of course, we see here in the sailing ships, here's the Vatican, here's the Jesuits with their red crosses sailing across the seas. I mean, you can see it everywhere. And then another interesting aspect that I found in this is the United States. But look at how big South Africa is, South America, excuse me, and also Africa is the size that they show on flat Earth maps as well. But check this out. So what's interesting here, which we'll get into in a minute, is there's no Lake Erie up here. There's no Lake Erie. There's 16th century, middle 1550s, and there's no Great Lakes up in this area, up in the northern United States. And also look at here. Here's your island of California. One more time, documented. California was an island. Look at this big sea coming from all these tributaries, coming down, feeding from here. So these mountains higher, going to the lower areas, and then eventually going out into the ocean. But again, here's the island of California. It goes up and it connects, but you don't see the demarcation lines that would show all the way up, but it does connect over to Russia. What's it, Sarah Palin, the knucklehead that was running for president, that you could see Russia from Alaska. She was exactly right, because it's a flat map. So anyway, so you can go through this all day, and it's just a bunch of fun. And you can see so many things. Here's some lobster over here, and again, all the sailing ships sailing from all around, but documenting again that California was an island. And then here's another piece of the puzzle. This is by wewarrior.wordpress, doing some excellent research. I was disturbed by this contradiction to accepted geography that I started looking into other maps of the same period, beginning with the Mercator. Didn't take long to find the 1597 map. These maps is clear. There's clear Northwest Passage Ocean route right to both American coasts. If there were an easy marine route just 500 years ago, doesn't make the premise that the Bering Strait land bridge is the only way to America sound less plausible. Indeed. Intrigued, I eagerly listened while he told me about the new theories about the Tartary Empire. He explained how this fascinating culture originating in the area now called Russia and much of China may have had a huge role in shaping America's pre-colonial world. That's what we're learning now. I mean, just look at North America. No Great Lakes, no Mississippi River, mountains in the prairies, and greatly extended west coast. Check out the huge Antarctica with Australia still attached, and South America is missing its tail. Now, to me, that indicates some catastrophic changes must have happened to these land masses before our conventional map was created. I'm getting that unsettled feeling again that something very important was being hidden from us again. So this is in the notes. I'll put in the show notes as well. And I'll just take you through these beautiful, I mean, can you just imagine if this was an energy device and people came here to heal from all over the world and everybody were healers, everybody had healing centers, and we all lived in fecundity and abundance? Without geoengineering, without mass force vaccinations, without need for politics, nobody needs to be governed. We're all live in peace and abundance. That's what the Tartarian Empire, I'm learning, was. It was a land of plenty. And one of the only rules they had was what you take from nature, you give back. Nature gives us life, folks. We don't give her enough reference. But you can look at these maps here. And I'll move this here a little better, so you can see and put this in the show notes. Exactly what the Wee Warrior was talking about Tartaria, about the missing, look at these maps. They don't look anything. Look at how big Africa is compared to Europe. I mean, this is flat Earth confirmation. And again, which really boggles my mind, if we're talking 1700, 1600, we're only talking 400 years ago. All these cataclysmic events must have occurred. Look at the landmass around the Arctic circles. I mean, these maps are available to study and to download. And then here we go again with Mount Meru and the four rivers that's talked about in all the ancient theocosmogonies of the ancient geocentrics, like the Lemurians, the Chaldeans, the Hyperboreans, the Toltecs, the Aztecs, the Mayans. They were all geocentrics. The Nords, the Far East Chinese, the Near East Chinese, they were all geocentrics, flat earthers. And this was their map. The map of the center of Eden, that flat earth universe Martin Kenny gets into so elegantly. And remember, the North Pole is magnetic. It's feminine divine. It's the attraction principle. In 2020, it's going to be an interesting time. There may be an ascension time. But, I mean, just go through this and look at these posts and see what I'm talking about here. And again, we can see that California was an island. This was sent in by Sean Nebel, thank you, Sean, and that Tartaria was there, and that Antarctica and touches South America. So it was all connected back then, much more so. So travel would have been easier, not harder, as we've been sold and told and lied to. And then here's a beautiful map including the Earth in the center here, and then all the different realms of the heavenly realms. I mean, there's 9 realms away after ours of heavens of realms. There's so much more to know. And Mercury, Venus, the moon, it goes all through the ancient teachings about there is much bigger story than just human life here in the physical realm. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And who is behind all the lies and the mass deceptions? Of course, it's the J-suits. Who is behind likely the destruction of the great Tartarian horde empire? Here you see them, the Jesuits celebrating, and here you see the Mongolians and the Chinese underneath them, under their control, the Jesuits showing their world, and here climbing the pole, climbing the mast. I mean, it's all right there in front of us. But also, you know, here's Queen Califia. We're going to get into this in another video, that the women, the Amazon women, were in California as late as the early 1800s. They had griffins that protected themselves from men. The story is unreal. We'll get into that another time. But just, I'm going to get into this more and more. But again, the Tartarian Empire was massive. They were massive. Not all giants, but there were a lot of giants. Look at these pipe organs. Look at this man down here, and look at this pipe organ. These were healing devices. These were used up until the great exhibition, the Pan-Pacific exhibition in San Francisco. They had them. They had them all over the world in the cathedrals because they were healing centers. The magnetrons were healing centers. The fireplaces, they controlled the temperatures of the rooms of the entire houses. You think this is going to heat a house in old Victorian times? Think again. These things in the fireplaces, those are capacitors. We'll get into that more. Here we see the Wi-Fi energy devices at top of all these buildings. We'll get into this more. But again, you can go to my my YouTube page and you can look it up for yourself. But I put this together all yesterday. And then something really interesting, I just want to end with this, even though it's not very comfortable. This EMF weapon was tuned for life. So they used it for good. We're talking about electromagnetic frequencies, folks. And it wiped out, this is one man's conjecture, it wiped out the Tartarian Empire as your rapture. The mass disappearance of people and animals wasn't from aliens, wasn't from the bearded bread and fish multiplier, God, Jesus, whatever you want to call him, but from rather an ancient technology used to deconstruct molecules affected by whatever frequency the weapon was tuned to affect. In the case of the Tartarians, the electromagnetic frequency weapon was tuned for life, such as iron molecules. Fast forward to 9/11, Dr. Judy Woods, where did the towers go? They were dustified. Yes, they were. The weapon was tuned for steel molecules during the 9/11 attack, used to break apart the cellular structure of steel molecules using a form of electromagnetic vibrational frequency. This EMF molecular destruction weapon was tuned to a frequency in which anything with steel in it, such as buildings, cars, lights, street signs, were caught in the weapon's beams, would be affected. The EMF weapon was focused on the area surrounding the pertaining object. The object's molecules that made up its steel component would begin to get excited and cause friction. This friction would first cause the object to catch fire. After a short time, the object's steel molecules would begin vibrating at such a high intensity that the molecules themselves would begin to break apart. Think of a microwave, folks, how it works. It's exciting molecules. And then when you eat from microwave food, the molecules are still being excited and expanding in your system. It radiates all through your system, microwave ovens. As the object underwent molecular deconstruction, the object quickly turned to dust, dustification. A similar technology was used to wipe out the previous creation. However, this time, instead of tuning the EMF to break apart the cellular structure of steel molecules, it was tuned to the composition that made up life, such as iron in our red blood cells. Wonderful, huh? So here's some pictures from early 1900s, 1915. I covered on the San Francisco exhibition. But look at the Coney Tower, all lit up. Look at all these examples, Westinghouse with all their shows. We'll get into that more about how they did it, and Queen Khalifa and California being an island. And then the other thing here is on the giants. We've had giants in our history that hasn't been reported or recorded. Let me move this over here so you get an idea. I mean, it's just all over that the Tartarians were existing all over the United States, as tall as 18 feet. No shit. I mean, Paul Bunyan, remember the story of Paul Bunyan? He was a giant. Remember the stories of David and Goliath? I mean, but we've got pictures on pictures, and then we have articles here about the homes of the giants that once ruled America. And look at all the pictures of all the finds of giants that were found, bones found all across the United States. And notice the Great Divide here, the Missouri, how they're separated here. Isn't that interesting? And notice the movies. It stands for Big Friendly Giant. They make movies about it just to mock us. But we have found skeletons in gravel pits, in the height of a tall person, graves found in pottery. I mean, we find so much evidence of giants, but we'll get into that another time. All right, plain truth out. Catch it on the next video. The Tartarians were flat earthers. Yay, more confirmation. Peace, love one another, and be kind, folks. This is difficult times to download all this information. We're being isolated with all the knowledge we're getting, and others can't keep up. So don't try and make them understand what you're understanding, because you're learning much faster than most of your friends and your family. But just take it as a gift, but also take it in knowledge that you're going to be isolated because of your knowledge. So find your other tribe, find other friends on Facebook or wherever, have meetups, connect with other truthers that are awakening, and speak out, because others are awakening and stay silent, and they're suffering in their silence. All right, plain truth. Catch you next video. Love one another. Peace.